Howdy, guys. Welcome to night 24 inside the Big Brother All-Stars house. Friday night, Saturday morning, and this is Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. I'm staying up so that you don't have to. And for this evening, hey, you ought to be thanking me because this was not the most exciting evening that we've had so far. We had nominations earlier. Until we have the veto competition tomorrow, people are laying a little bit low. We have a few discussions. We'll talk about it. But if you didn't watch the overnight feeds, you didn't miss as much as some other nights. But I'm still glad you're here listening. So here's what we've got, just a little bit of a refresher. First of all, we did have the nominations today. As y'all recall, Enzo won the HOH, so he's putting up nominations. Expected Enzo to play it conservative, play it safe, and he did. He put up Kaser and Kevin on the block. No huge surprise from anyone. Well, a little bit with Kevin. There were people wondering if it was going to be Kevin or David, perhaps. So we'll talk about that just a little bit. So a couple of conversations. First of all, I think right after the nominations take place, soon after the feeds come back on, Enzo and Kevin are talking. Kevin worries a little bit, right? So he's talking to Enzo. Enzo saying, Kevin, man, my man, yo, yeah, you're fine. You're just a pawn. You were safe. Even if Kaser comes off the block, another target's going up. So in no world are you going home, Kevin. You're fine. Just lay low. Just chill. He says, I just had to do it. He says, look, I put you up this time. I get it, but you're safe. And I promise I'm not going to do it again for the rest of the season. This is it. I'm not going to make you pawn forever. This is it. So he does everything he can to calm Kevin down a little bit. So meanwhile, another conversation soon after that, Danny and Bailey are talking. They're a little bit surprised at the noms. They were really thinking that David would be going up on the block instead of Kevin, just because David's been a little bit more of a disruption in the house this past week, both with Bailey and Devon and also with Cody and Tyler and that whole discussion about throwing people under the bus and revealing secrets and all that. So they're kind of thinking it would be David. Another conversation. This is between Kaser and Danny, and Kaser's telling Danny, saying, "Hey, if I survive this week, I'm going to have to blow up your alliance." Well, first of all, you don't say that. Come on, Kaser. You don't say things that make you seem like even more of a target. Danny's pretty good about it. She says, what alliance are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. She says, obviously, I'm close with some people in this house, but it isn't an alliance. I'm just close with people. And she says, especially with the people that you're insinuating, which is Cody and Tyler and her and Nicole. And there's no alliance. I don't know what you're talking about, Kaser. But she later tells Cody and Tyler, she says, I played dumb, but I look dumb saying it too. So Kaser knows there's alliance. They know that he knows, but they're still trying to keep it under wraps as much as they can. Another conversation, Kaser and Enzo are talking. Kaser says, hey, Enzo, I know I'm the target. I know that, I'm it. And Enzo saying, hey, man, it's nothing personal. It's just the house was pushing for you. I couldn't go against the house. It's just, it is what it is. He says, I didn't want to rustle any feathers, Enzo, or Kaser, but it's nothing personal. Kaser tells him, says, I get it, but hey, if I survive this week, I want to work with you. I'd love to work with you going forward. We can make something happen. And Enzo says, I respect you, man. I appreciate it. And we'll see what happens. So we've got that. Another conversation, Enzo and Ian are talking. Now, Ian's feeling a little bit nervous this week. He's starting to see that maybe he's a little bit on the outside compared to some of the other people. But Ian's talking to Enzo. They both agree that if they win the veto, they're not changing the nominations. It's going to stay just the way it is. And Ian is saying, look, Enzo, after next week, if we survive, then you have jury after that. And so he says, Enzo, if I win HOH next week, you're safe. I am not putting you up. And Enzo says, thank you, Ian. I didn't put you up, even though he's considering a back door, which Ian doesn't know. But he says, I didn't put you up, Ian, and I'd love to have the favor returned. And Ian, actions speak louder than words. Enzo said that a few times over the past few weeks. So he says, yeah, favor for favor. You don't put me up. I didn't put you up. Now you don't put me up next week. And Ian said, yeah, done. So they've got that. Conversation between David and Kevin. And all right, David tells Kevin, says, the good thing is, Kevin, that you don't have any lies or manipulation attached to your name. Just leave that hanging out there. So yeah, David thinks that Kevin's good. He didn't have that kind of baggage with him, right? David mentions, and I went back. I tried to find the feed for this actual event coming up, and I never could find it. So take it with a little bit of grain of salt. But David says that he mentioned a meeting of 5 people who were talking really badly about David as a player, saying he's a horrible player and all of that. I think that's what the conversation was. And Kevin says, was that bad? And David said, yeah, it was bad enough that someone later came and apologized to me as well. And I think it was about David as a player in the game. So David's feeling a little down. He's feeling like he's at the bottom of the totem pole, and not long for this game unless some things change, some things happen, and he could be right. All right, another conversation, Danny and Nicole. Danny, she's feeling bad. She says she's feeling bad for Kaiser. You know, he's never made it to jury and everything. He's a real nice guy. But she says, but if we keep him, he'd go after Cody and Tyler. And so he has to go. We can't allow that. But immediately after that, she also mentioned, she says, but I have kind of been telling people how tight Cody and Tyler are. So he's kind of planting some seeds for a little bit later down the road. She's not ready to get rid of him right now, but she certainly wants to make sure people are aware that Cody and Tyler are potentially threats and all that. Danny's playing the game. Danny is talking about getting rid of Bailey. So that, because she says, hey, if we get rid of Bailey, Nicole, that Day is going to be by herself. She's going to be that much closer to me, and I can use her as a shield. So I'd much rather get rid of Bailey and bring Day in. She's also talking about that she wants to try to convince Christmas to go after Memphis if Christmas wins an HOH. And she says a perfect time would be a double eviction. They're thinking there could be a double eviction coming up pretty quick. I'm sure they're counting down weeks and things like that as well. So she's saying, man, if Christmas won that HOH on double eviction, send Memphis out the door without a whole lot of campaigning or anything else, and get rid of them. So she's got some different strategies in her mind, obviously. All right, a couple other things going on. Kevin and Davon are talking. Kevin gets a little nervous, right? When he's on the block, he's a little nervous right now. It's gonna be a long week. Kevin's asking Davon, I think Bailey too, but especially Davon, say, "Are you gonna keep me? I'm on the block. Are you gonna keep me?" And she's kind of surprised. She said, well, "Why would you ask me that?" You know, and it just kind of surprised. But he keeps talking. Now, this is an interesting little point from Kevin. He's talking about a group of 4, and that's Tyler, Cody, Danny, and Nicole. So basically the commission minus Christmas and Memphis. And he's saying, I feel like that group of 4, everyone else in this house pretty much, I'm alone. He says, but everyone else in this house, it seems like you've got this group of 4 and everyone is just kind of a +1 to that group. Everyone's trying to attach to different people within that group. He's not far off. That's it's not a bad read, Kevin. It only took 3 weeks or so, but hey, good read. I'm not going to be critical of anyone. I know how hard it is, limited information. So, Kevin, go for it, man. Do your best. You be you, Kevin. But no, good read. I think he's on to something there. Okay, a little outside the strategy game. Sushi was created thanks to Memphis and some very high dollar tuna that was put in the refrigerator. Man, we had some of that high dollar fish back there during my season as well. Fancier stuff than I'm used to eating. So anyway, Memphis made some sushi. Everyone said it was fantastic. Although I did hear some complaints that Kaiser oversalted the rice. So no one's ever happy in that house, right? All right, another conversation going on. Tyler and Danny at this point. You're not hearing a lot from Tyler tonight. He's feeling miserable. He's on his first day of slop, and he's already just feeling brutal, just feeling beat down. So you're not going to hear a lot from Tyler tonight, but Tyler and Danny are talking. This is a very interesting strategy comment from Tyler. He's saying, hey, Janelle was a have-not. She got evicted, so she couldn't pick anyone else. So now we only have 3 have-nots. What would happen if we just started trying to evict the have-nots so we get rid of all the slots? So going forward, none of us are going to be on have-nots for the rest of the time. Hey, it's interesting thought from Tyler. All right, another conversation. Enzo and Cody are talking. Enzo is saying that Christmas told Kaiser that she won't use the veto. He had said, if I picked you, would you play? And she said, yeah, but I can't use a veto on you. And Enzo is saying that he might backdoor Ian if Kaiser comes off the block. He says backdooring David's kind of a waste of his HOH. He'll be a target next week anyway. Why do I want to waste it on David? So he'd rather do Ian. He's also saying, telling everyone else, he said, yeah, Kevin's not going to be my target this week either. That's not who I'm going for. It's either Kaiser or whoever else I put likely in his place. Cody says that Davon and Nicole will both be pissed if Ian goes up instead of David. Obviously, Nicole is tight with Ian. Davon is tight with Kevin. So again, they'd be a little upset. Cody tells Enzo that Nicole said just last night that she wants to take Ian to a final 6. Again, Cody's planting some seeds that, hey, Enzo, Ian, there's people talk about him going a long way. So maybe Ian's good person to get going out the door, right? All right, another conversation. This is a slick 6, basically 6-6. Say that 3 times. Slick 6 minus Tyler, who again is sick. They're up in the HOH room talking. Enzo is again saying that Kaiser is his target. Davon says, "Hey, why did you put Kevin instead of David?" Again, Davon and Kevin are tight, and she's a little upset with David right now anyway. Enzo says, "Look, David's a bigger competition threat. Even though he hasn't won anything yet, I'd much rather compete against Kevin than David on the veto competition. So I picked Kevin instead." And Davon said, okay. He says that Ian's going to play hard for veto because Ian's starting to get a little bit nervous. He also mentions that Danny seems to be pretty tight. She seems to be tighter and talking with Kaiser a little bit more than in the past. So a little bit worried about that. Bailey and Davon leave the room, and after that, Cody and Enzo start talking, saying how much they like Bailey. She's just calm, she's collected and everything, but that Davon doesn't trust them. Enzo says, well, there's a good reason she shouldn't trust us. But Enzo saying he regrets having an alliance with Davon, says she's too demanding. She wants to be involved with everything, wants everything run past her. Enzo is now saying, I really hope Christmas wins the next HOH, so she'll go after Davon. Now, also, Danny was saying she wants Christmas to go after Memphis. So a couple of people that are thinking Christmas, who she should go after if she wins one of these HOHs coming up. But they're hoping that Christmas would win and go after Davon, and they think Danny will push to send Bailey home instead. But they aren't going to let her do that. Danny's obviously tighter with Davon and wouldn't want that. But they're not going to let Bailey go home over Davon. They also say that Nicole wants Bailey gone because she thinks Bailey's going to come after her if given a chance. So the guys are wanting Day gone, and the girls sounds like are a little bit more wanting probably Bailey to go home first. Final thing in that little conversation, Enzo says he'd be happy replacing send Davon home and replace her with Christmas in the alliance. That he would be perfectly happy doing that. So a little bit of discussion with that. All right, a couple of more things. Kevin, Bailey, and Davon are talking. Kevin is still all that long asking about votes and everything. He's a little irritated that Bailey and Davon won't commit to voting to save him. And I think it's Davon that says, look, I want to save you. I'll do what I can, but I'm not going to throw him away my game. If it's obvious the house is going the other way, then I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm going to vote that way. So just heads up. As predicted by Cody and Enzo, Danny comes in and starts giving reasons why Bailey needs to go home. She's a comp B. She was on a challenge, came in 3rd place versus Davon, who's never won anything. So she's giving all these reasons why she thinks Bailey should stay, or why Bailey should go home and Davon should stay. The other thing, it's funny, Danny and Enzo are both talking. They're both blaming Bailey and Davon for the hinky votes cast on Thursday to save Kazar, even though it's the two of them that cast those hinky votes. But they're blaming Bailey and Davon. They're both saying, oh, yeah, that's got to be it. So there we go with that. Now, final thing, Kazar, Bailey, Davon talking to each other. Kazar's talking to them about David. Said before the HOH competition on Thursday, he was talking to himself. He yelled a little bit. He said, I'm going to expose the liars. And they're all discussing who are the liars he's talking about. Not real sure. No one really knows for certain. He says something that little birdie had told him that he didn't think he could get farther than 3rd place. So he's feeling like he's a 3rd wheel, either with Bailey or Davon perhaps, or perhaps with Cody and Tyler. We really don't know. But Kazar has said that David is either with Bailey and Davon or Cody or Tyler. And Bailey later comes up and gives all that information to the HOH crowd as well. So, again, they still aren't real certain with David and his position in the game. All right, guys, we're going to shut it down. SKD 143, I'll see y'all 24 hours on Sunday morning. Cheers, guys. Have a great Saturday. Bye.